Well, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me a great deal of pleasure today to announce that Andrew Fagan is the new CEO of the Adelaide Football Club. As you all know, we conducted a pretty exhaustive search that took us on a journey for the last 60 or 70 days, and we're absolutely delighted that we found someone with the experience and talent that Andrew has got. During that whole search process, we spoke to everyone that we needed and wanted to, and at the end of it, Andrew just stood out, and we were just delighted over the weekend that he accepted our offer to become our next Chief Executive Officer. Andrew brings a depth of experience and real talent, as I said earlier, to our football club. Right at this point in time, he's the General Manager of the Australian Rugby Union, overseeing projects and strategies that maximise the commercialisation for the 12 franchise teams in the Rugby Union series. He's held that for some little time. Prior to that, he was a club man. He was the Chief Executive of the Canberra-based Brumbies. He'd spent 12 years there, as I said, the last 8 as Chief Executive. And earlier in his career, he was involved in elite sport at the Australian Institute of Sport. So as you can see, he's got a real breadth of experience. I, along with my board, are delighted that he has accepted our offer, and we're really looking forward to the contribution that he is going to make to the success of our football club. So I'm sure you'll have some questions.
Andrew, what made you change codes then?
A bunch of things. Look, personally, the challenge was really important to me, but then it was a challenge accompanied by the club itself. So the Adelaide Football Club is a wonderful brand nationally. It's got such a strong platform from which we can build success, very strong commercially. And even from the East Coast, the 19th man is renowned, wonderful supporter base, passionate and loyal. For me, that provided a base from which I think we can achieve great things. On the field, the results over the last couple of years haven't met the expectations of the club, and that's actually appealing as well in terms of what we can do going forward. And for a new chief executive coming in, I want to sort of help to turn those fortunes around. So there's plenty of appealing things about the club, and I think you're all abundantly sort of familiar with those. But the challenge itself was an important one. And look, personally, I've been involved in rugby for 13 years. I've been involved in professional and commercial sport for 22 years. And during that time, I've obviously watched the growth of the AFL as an executive in the sports industry. I'm very familiar with the code and familiar with the clubs in it. And then look, the final bit is I'm Adelaide born, so it was a great opportunity to come back to the city in which I was born, and obviously a club that I followed fondly since their inception into the competition in 1990.
Do you know a lot about Australian rules football and the club?
Yeah, look, I do. So, I said working in sport for 22 years, you follow all sports. I'm a fan of the game. Fan of the code, so both on and off the field. So, look, that should come as no surprise. I don't think you'd find too many people working in sport that don't support and follow all of the codes. It's an important part of doing business in modern day sport. So, look, I'm an absolute fan of the game, and I'm a fan of what the AFL's done over, the last 15, 20 years in particular. And look, I said, being an Adelaide-born guy, I've watched the fortunes and followed the fortunes of the Crows over the years, and particularly over the last little while. And I think they've built, they've got a strong foundation from which success can come, and excited about their new home in Adelaide Oval as well.
Andrew, the AFL game is, or the business of the AFL, is a pretty unique little field. It is a pretty closed shop. So I want to see now coming from the outside into it, how does you think everything you've learned elsewhere translate, particularly for the Adelaide Footy Club?
Yeah, well, one of the things that I think is of benefit to the club, and certainly it was a point of discussion with Rob and the board and the assessment panel, is I'd like to think I bring a fresh set of eyes and a new set of experiences to the club. There's obviously a wealth of AFL knowledge and experience within the footy club. I just earlier today met 90 staff. I've been really impressed with the process that I went through and the work that the board's put in. So I think there's plenty of AFL experience. I'll immerse myself in that business, and I think in short time I'll be an AFL man through and through. But I think that I really do bring a fresh sort of set of eyes and a fresh perspective and a set of experiences, which I think will complement those that already exist within the club.
You asked to give a critical look as the outsider's view, as critical on, and probably Rob, you could add to that as well. That outsider thought of where the Adelaide Footy Club is and what it needs to do.
Yeah, look, I was, and I did so voluntarily. And it was part of my appeal in terms of looking at the role. So, an interview process and an assessment process is a two-way street. So, part of it was obviously the board looking at me and my experiences and my background and making a judgment call. But part of it was me looking at the club and deciding whether it was a place that I wanted to be a part of. And it was abundantly clear very early that on a commercial front, the club's got a strong footing. They're a very, very strong national brand, great corporate support, set an extraordinary supporter base in the 19th man that's large and growing, a wonderful new strategic asset in Adelaide Oval from which they play. So for me, that set a strong footprint. But I was open and honest in saying that I thought that the club has not met the expectations of their supporter base, and I'm sure of the club itself on the field over the last several years. It's 16 years since the last flag is too many years. But what I was pleased about was that that was a point that was only agreed and endorsed and understood very clearly by everyone sort of on the board. So there's a competitive nature that exists within this club that I found very, very appealing, and I'm looking forward to being a part of it.
Your view on that, Rob?
I think he gave some very honest answers to his assessment of where we're at as a football club. He's a man of high standards, and he's worked in a high performance environment, and the answers he gave to our questions made me think this is the sort of person we need around our club. We've always said, mediocrity is not acceptable, and Andrew not only assessed where we're at, but also shared a little vision as to where we could be, and that particularly we like those answers.
And if you've got can you share how you think you can meet those expectations this club?
Yeah, look.
First steps are?
Yeah, look. There's a bunch of first steps for me, and one of them's officially starting. So I've met 90 staff today, got 50 players to meet, a wide portfolio of sponsors, a heap of stakeholders. It's great to meet you guys here today. An important part of the setup. I'll start to immerse myself in the information that sort of I need. But in short, the vision of this club is and should be to be the most respected and successful sporting club in the country, and I feel completely at ease with that as a vision and aspiration for this footy club. We then need to break that down and look at how we're going to deliver on it. And on many fronts, we're delivering really, really well. Obviously there's a key focus on on-field performances. What I want to do, and this is my history lends itself this way, is I think we've got to look at the football program and ensure that we've got the best football program in the AFL. That's a controllable for me. So in my time in rugby, time in the AIS, that is a controllable. You can't always control injuries, you can't always control the decisions of officials, but what you can control is putting the right people in the right seats, having the right systems in place, and from that success will come. So that's the focus for me. It's making sure that the Adelaide Crows will have the best football program in the AFL, and if we do that, then I think we'll be headed in the right direction.
Does that mean you're planning changes to personnel specifically?
Well, it's way too early for me to be able to make that assessment. As I said, it's effectively day one. But look, I certainly want to make sure we've got all the right people in all the right seats. As Rob said, there's no sort of second prize here. We're elite. We should be elite. We should set ourselves really high standards, and certainly that's what I intend to do. So we want to challenge all of our staff, right across the business. I spoke about the need to, on the commercial side, we want people being business builders. They're not just implementers of each day they come into work. They've got to look to build the business. And on the football side, we want all of our staff being world class. And I'm sure that that's the case, in most seats. So, but I certainly want to test that, and I'm really looking forward to spending some time with the coaches and the football operations staff just to get a real feel for that.
Andrew, are there attributes to this league which have more appeal coming from rugby? I guess it's probably got, AFL's probably seen as a little bit more commercially a bigger proposition than rugby at the moment. Is that part of the appeal for you to sort of step up to another league at a commercial level, at a business level? And possibly, if you like, you can add, are the people in your position from the rugby code looking the same way as well?
Yeah, look, there is plenty of appeal, but look, at its core, the job features the same elements. So I was dealing with the most elite, rugby players in the world, leading rugby players in the world on a day-to-day basis. We've got some of the best rugby coaches in the world on a day-to-day basis, and we're dealing with generating support from a supporter base that's passionate, and then working to ensure that we've got the commerciality of the business where we need it to be. And so at its core, the business is the same, but certainly as an industry, the AFL is the leading industry in the country. Its share of voice, its strength, its influence, its ability to control what it wishes to control is something that holds appeal, and it's great to be a part of that. And look, I've admired the AFL and the clubs within it from afar for some time. And look, I'm a career sports executive. It's what I do. I run footy clubs. I look to sort of drive high performance outcomes and deliver commercial outcomes for sport. So I've got the ability now to do it with a great club that I think has an enormous amount of potential to deliver what its fans and supporters want.
Is there any something that rugby does better than AFL clubs that you can bring to this
I think I'm hoping that I can bring perspective and a different perspective, and I'm probably only going to be able to make that judgment call when I'm in and around the business. And to be fair, so I think it's probably a little early to suggest that one's better than another. I think it's a case of looking at every part of our business and just seeing whether my experiences can create some really strong debate within this club about how we might look to improve things.
How do you see the Stephen Trigg era? Do you think they'll be tough shoes to fill?
Look, Stephen was obviously here for a long period of time. I think it's a plus for the club that if in 25 years there's only been two chief executives. That sort of stability generally goes to strength, and I think there's been an enormous amount achieved during that tenure. And look, if we just look in recent times, obviously we've got the move to Adelaide Oval, which gives the Crows perhaps the leading home ground in the country. We've obviously got a team playing in the SANFL. We've got a club that now owns its own licence. We've got a club that's got a really strong balance sheet. So there's a lot to like. And so that was part of my assessment process as much as it was the board assessing me. And they probably grilled me a little harder than I grilled them. But it was an important part of the process, and I think that there are exciting times ahead.
What worked for you going twice outside what was seen to be Adelaide's usual way of appointing someone, and then again outside of the AFL?
Well, the process that we went through, it was pretty exhaustive. It took us a while. We didn't make any shortcuts to it. We spoke to every person that we wanted to and needed to. We were very clear in our minds what we needed and the type of person and the type of skills that were required to do this job. And quite frankly, at the end of that process, there were probably more than a handful that could have done the job. But as I said right up front, Andrew's recent experience, and particularly in his role as CEO of the Brumbies, he's actually done things there that we need to do as a club over the next few years. And I'm on record as saying, the best indicator of future success is what you've done in your recent past. And And Andrew's done a lot of good things that I know are going to hold us in good stead, and made some good decisions that we can learn from here and take us on, the next phase of our journey. I think our club is stable, and we are in a very good position for all the things that Andrew has said. But we're now got to go on, our next part of the journey, and that is about growth, and it's about getting better, and it's about continuous improvement. I think he's got a clean slate to work with and start to build that now, from the ground up. So a new CEO in place with all the resource at his hands now to deploy, and I think he, together with the board and his senior management team, can come up with a good, robust plan to lead us to the success that our members and supporters expect of us.
Rob, you said you were impressed with Andrew's honesty. His answers hard to hear.
Not necessarily hard to hear. Many of them actually resonated with board members. We know where we're at, and we have had a plan in place for a long time. We've executed against it. We haven't had some of the results on field that we would like, and we don't accept those. And as I said, Andrew also came prepared with some ideas and a vision for the future, which we liked.
Andrew, how big is the challenge down the road with Port Adelaide flying at the moment, back in vogue, I suppose, because everyone sees them as such an exciting thing. I guess you would get back competing with it.
Yeah, well, competition's great. So I think we should be worried about competition. I think there's lots of winners that come from competition, and I think the fans are winners. It's nice that you've got two clubs working as hard as possible to ensure that they can better each other. But most of our focus, my focus is on us, and it's about ensuring that from a supporter perspective, that the 19th man continues to grow, they're engaged, that our experiences at the stadium are compelling ones, entertaining ones, and that on the field we deliver to their expectation. And that challenge isn't doesn't matter who you ask. I think your expectations for the Adelaide Football Club are the same as Rob's, they're the same as mine. I think they're the same as 57,000 members of the 19th man. So that will be our focus, and if there's some good competition in the state, well, that's a positive thing, and it's just good for footy.
Andrew, it's early days, but are there any really obvious changes that you think may be made?
No, look, it probably is too early to be fair. So I've got to get through and.
You've been here an hour though.
Yeah, I know. So when you said expectations were high, so I didn't think they were that high. But but yeah, look, to be fair, it'd be appropriate for me to immerse myself in the business. I've got a pretty clear plan of what I want to do over the first 30 days to get myself up to speed, and understand exactly where the business is at, and that involves discussions with the people sitting in these chairs right in front of me. It involves discussions with our members and our stakeholders. Obviously, with all the staff here, we've got some wonderful staff, and I've been impressed with the work that I've seen. Been impressed with every step of the process that I've gone through. So I think I don't think my comments should be taken as a need to overhaul things in a significant way, but appropriate change is required sometimes to drive great results, and if that's what we need to do, that's what we need to do. But I'll take some time to make that judgment.
Andrew, when you saw the opportunity to be here, what was your first thought?
My first thought was to ask my partner Alana whether she would move to Adelaide with me. She's sitting here in the front row, so Alana was that was an outstanding yes, which I appreciated. And then I just thought it was a wonderful opportunity. So and for all of the reasons that I've said. So for the last 2 or 3 years, I've been looking for that right fit, and for a whole bunch of reasons, this was the right fit. Been really enjoying my time within the governing body of Australian rugby, but I'm a club man at heart. So I love the coalface of sport. I love the touch points with the membership base. I love the high performance environment. I like trying to work out, or trying to drive that win every weekend, and getting effectively a scorecard every 7 days. All of those things are important, and obviously trying to drive the commercial growth of the club. So they're the things that I thought were in place well here, providing the platform for growth. And obviously, I very quickly thought that that within the Adelaide Football Club, there's the opportunity for growth and improvement where results haven't been delivered in recent years. And I'd love to be a part of that. I'm going to be a part of that, and that's the bit that was most appealing.
As a fan sitting back watching from afar, have you at times in the past few years said there's if I was there that wouldn't be happening?
Look, what I've learned in professional sport over 20 odd years is that it's hard to know everything that goes on in a footy club unless you're inside the footy club. So I've never thought that, but I make judgment calls on things like every other follower of a club or a code does. But look, overall, as I said, I've mostly been a fan of the club in terms of what they've been able to present and what they've been able to deliver. Albeit I've been one that hasn't been as happy as I would have liked to have been, come September.